guys, and just letting you know you are tuned in to UniverSOUL right here, only here with the Queen, Lady AC. So yeah, it's what you're hearing playing under me is my new bed music for the month of June, and that is Natasha Ramos with Midnight Hour, because y'all been rocking with me in the midnight hour until now. And that is of course produced by the amazingly talented Pharrell Williams, or during that time he was known as or going through with the group called Neptunes. So yeah. And I picked that song because honestly it just musical brilliance, of course. But June is known as Black Music Month, so of course throughout this month I'm gonna be definitely highlighting some great black music. And I think this is definitely a perfect song, just kind of to show just the greatness of beautiful black music. So just to give you a runback of the music you just heard, of course. Before that was new music by a group called Oshun, and it's called Blessings on Blessings. I'm trying to give y'all that energy, give y'all blessings today. Before that, gave you new music by Flying Lotus. Dropped their latest album last month. Woo! And it's been amazing. But that was the title track there, or the latest single featuring Anderson .Paak called More. Before that, I took you across to the UK to one of my favorite artists. Her name is Marvi, and that was her song called Jealous. Before that, I took you to Africa, to the motherland, representing Ghana. That was Becca featuring YCs, and that was their song collaboration called Magic. And then I kicked off that set with no other than Zoe featuring Miss Carmen Rogers and Nicholas Ryan Gant, and there was a song together called A Choice of Weapons. So I like that. Like that, gave y'all the good energy. It kind of perked you up, work you up this morning, because we officially made it to hump day. Because once we get over this hump, we get back to the weekend. But for right now, we're gonna enjoy this moment, or as I always say, you're gonna enjoy it with me, at least. So yes, so today the topic of the day has been about, or we have been discussing addressing emotional pain. How that came about for the people who just tuned in, and shout out to everybody listening on Facebook Live. Thank you. You know how that came about is that I don't know if y'all heard about it. There was this little limited series that came out recently. I don't know if y'all heard it. It's small. It was called When They See Us. Of course, I'm joking. Because everybody has been talking about it. You know, shout out to everybody involved in that project, from the actors to the creative mind of Ava DuVernay. You know, just giving light to this story that needs to be told. And for anybody who doesn't know, it is about the lives of the exonerated five, formerly known as the Central Park Five, 5 boys in Harlem that were falsely accused of the rape of a white woman that was jogging in Central Park in the summer of 1989. And just a gross case of misjustice for all 5 of these, and then children, now men, you know. And so it's been causing a lot of different talk. Everybody's talking about, like I said, from social media to blogs to the news, everywhere is talking about it. And what I started to notice in the conversation of people talking about it, I started to notice that another conversation of, you know, oh my God, it's so emotional, it's so, oh, it got me in my feelings, or like people like, oh, I don't know, it's so heavy, I have to pace myself getting through it, you know. But it's definitely, you should watch it. And just a note, I haven't watched it quite yet. I ain't got Netflix, so but definitely will watch it eventually. But you know, everybody's talking about it. You watch it, but at the same time, I'm starting to also see a conversation of people just saying, you know what? Shout out, nothing against them. Shout out to them. I bet you that film is amazing. But I just can't bring myself to watch it. I can't bring myself to watch more black pain. More pain, period. And so when I started to think about that and tried to think of a topic, especially the cover on my show, it came up with this whole idea of emotional pain. And so I saw this tweet that basically was saying how, all of us daily experience trauma, but, you don't have to, even though you can take it, you don't have to. And a follow-up tweet basically said that suffering is not a superpower. Because with all this violence, all this discrimination, all these instances that we're seeing around us that are coming up and popping up daily, they're coming up so routinely that as a culture, as a community, we become, in a sense, kind of used to it because it happens so much that it gets to the point where we're starting to, we're all low-key are trying to take it. We're taking it. And then that's on, just like I said, society, community level, but on a personal level, we all have our own emotional pain that we deal with, whether it was trauma from our childhoods, from abuse, from, just things that happened along the way that we couldn't control, some things that we could control, that happened that we're dealing with. So, of course, you have society and you have your own personal. So it's like, why would you willingly take on more emotional pain, such as being exposed to images of black bodies being hurt again? So, that can be a lot. And it really is a lot. It really is a lot to take in and a lot to deal with and a lot to process, especially if you're in the process of healing yourself too. Or healing yourself from the images that you're seeing or being promoted to you daily. And it's a lot. And, so it's understandable that people have that perspective or have that mindset of, I love what they did, but I don't think I can watch that. I don't think that's good for me right now. And so when thinking of it, it made me think of how we address emotional pain. And throughout the show so far, I've been talking about different perspectives of how to deal with it or how people address it in the different ways that it comes to us. Not saying that, as we go through our life, that we'll never have emotional pain, we'll never experience trauma. Of course we will. Because unfortunately, that's the world we live in. Or that's what some parts of us, that's the foundation is built on. But that's a whole nother topic. But, when we look at it, we are going to deal with it. But it interrupts us on these journeys. On these lives. I won't say it's a part of life, but I would say it interrupts us on these journeys as we're trying to find ourselves, as we're trying to grow, as we're trying to live out our purposes or find our purposes, And we have to find ways, especially healthy ways, to deal with it, to address it. But when you are bombarded constantly being triggered of that emotional pain, that can make you want to shut down. That can make you not want to deal with it. That can make you, it can overload you. And so there are different ways that people address it. So the very first hour, I talked about the power of silence, where we talk about spoken word, that at the end of the day, it's almost like as if we're like you said, like you're kind of pushed in a corner to just take the pain, just take it, just deal with it, to address it, to speak it, to say it. And that there is power in just being silent. That you don't owe nobody nothing to address your pain. You don't owe nobody anything to express or talk about it or to speak about it. You can be silent and just work on yourself to yourself. That there is strength by being quiet. That sometimes the best answer in some situations, especially when dealing with pain, especially addressing it, is to be silent. And there's nothing weak about it. There's nothing, judgmental about it. It's just because you are consciously making that decision, constantly thinking that, I'm going to be quiet in this time and I'm going to listen. And I'm just going to heal silently. I ain't got to speak to nobody. Not saying that it's not, you can't ask for help or that you can't reach out. But I'm just saying that, that you don't feel that pressure with the need to speak on it. That pressure, the need to jump at it and to hold on to it, and to attack it or to bring awareness to it. You don't have to. You don't. And so that was the first hour. So last hour I was talking about how outside people add to our emotional pain. So people come with their own, like when we experience emotional pain on the many different levels, such as in relationships or personally, or even in community or society wise, that there are going to be people around you that are going to already have their own prejudice, going to have their own perspectives, their own thoughts, and they ultimately betray that and push that onto you. And so now, while you're already dealing with this pain, and while you're already, working through what you personally got going, now you got this added trauma, this added emotional pain that makes it even heavier. So now you're sitting here and dealing with it, and like I said, in this culture that we're that is subculture. I'll call it subculture because it ain't normal. But the subculture that's kind of coming up out of it is that if the more you take in, the more you deal with it, the stronger you are, the more loyal you are, the more valuable you are, the more, worthy you are. And the truth is that it is not your suffer. It's not your job to suffer. It's not okay to suffer. You shouldn't be expected to suffer. And like I said, with all the personal job that you're working on, emotional pain, why would you willingly accept and take even more than that? Not me, not I. And you see that more commonly in relationships. Like, there literally is a culture of people that, so much of a culture that we joke about it, that, of people literally like, well, I've been here since day one, and I went through this and this and this and this and this with so and so and so and so, and it kind of shows, or it shows your loyalty. It shows that you're down. It shows that you're ride or die, and not realizing that you're hurting yourself. Not realizing that you're weighing down on yourself. Not realizing that you're literally dying. You ride or die, but you dying on the inside. Because of all that hell, literally, that you're carrying. Just to prove that you're in it. Just to prove that you're worthy of it. Just to prove that you're worthy of anything. And that's crazy to me. Because of what kind of foundation are you building under something where it's built off of pain? What kind of relationship or what kind of person would allow you, who claims to love you or to claim to be there or claims to support you, would allow your suffering to be the one shining badge that shows your worth? If that's what love is, I don't want it. And the truth is, it's not. And the truth is that we have to learn how to quiet or not soak in those voices or those own perspectives. And so the spoken word was kind of talking more of a community aspect. Like I said, when you look at these situations going on around, because when you look at the trial, when you look at the case that happened with the Exonerate 5, formerly known as the Central Park 5, that a lot of the case was built on a stereotype of what they perceived as is the stereotype of black men, the stereotype of that they're violent, that they're vicious, that they're this, that they, that they're thugs, that they're up to no good, and all these other kind of things. And those perspectives projected onto them fed into a society, or fed into looking at the streets of Harlem or where they grew up. All of that connected kind of show once again the pain that they're used to it. They take it. That's just the norm. So it's easy for us to try them. It's easy for us to find them guilty because that's where they grew up. That's what they're around. That's their environment. So imagine the emotional pain that you're taking, that you're sitting there, that they're sitting there and accepting and seeping into them. It's already painful being young and being in this situation where these adults are kind of claiming you and claiming that you're this and told you that you're doing that and doing that. And now all of a sudden you have this other added drama on you. Kind of relating it back to the case, but looking at it as now, like I said, we have people in the hood want to be safe too. People in certain situations want to rise out of them. They do, but you got, instances of environmental racism, of income inequality, of food deserts, of all these different things community-wise. And so that festers in these areas. So no wonder they resort to violence. No wonder they resort to practicing in these unhealthy practices, or continuing the generations of curse and holding down and all these different things. And especially if they're not taught or not being showed that they can rise above it. That's why, the success of Jay-Z is so important. That's why the story or the person that Nipsey Hussle was so important for that area, and such an important story, because it showed how to grind, how to work of these people in these areas where people thought they were nothing. And they became something, and they actually provided a blueprint, or they provided escape, or they provided an example of people can aspire to get out of that. And in the case of Nipsey Hussle, he actually went back to that very same community and tried to create something out of something that people told wasn't good enough, was nothing but violence, was nothing but people who were all gangs, and just, it's not. So the purpose of that, once again, of addressing emotional pain, in relation to addressing emotional pain, is that when we start to address it, when we start to get close to it, and we start to really analyze it, we have to start breaking down that what is causing that emotional pain. Is it societal? Is it other people's perspectives? Is it this stuff that we have internalized? And we have to realize that we have to decipher between that pain, that if we truly want that healing, we have to realize the greatness in us. How you do that is by finding the balance of the pain of the things that you can control and what you couldn't control. The other way you can find it is by ways of showing that how great and brilliant that you are. By showing and having examples around you of people that are rising and continue to grow above. But of course, it's easier said than done, because we still have examples of showing you like things such as hate, such as racism, such as all these things that continue to push on you that emotional pain, that continue to be representations of that pain that caused you. You still will see, unfortunately in some cases, that the people that hurt you, that the people that are around you, that in some sense it kind of still feels like, while you're sitting here suffering, while you're sitting here hurting, while you're sitting here thinking that they're going on about their lives. And that can make you feel some kind of way. That can make you feel deterred. But what we have to understand is that when we're on our journeys with us, nobody else's perceptions, nobody else's imagery, nobody else's mindset affects us. Because at the end of the day, we have the mentality to control our narrative. We have the power to control our blessings. We have the power to control our healing. And whatever avenue you choose to address it, as long as you're identifying that as the best idea for you, that's all that matters. As long as you take those images, you take those ideas, and you turn them into things that represent the greatness of you. Take reclaim it and reclaim it, change it, and grow it into something that makes you more powerful and shows your power. Because the saying goes, is there the beauty in the struggle, right? Not saying that you're meant to struggle. Not saying that you're supposed to struggle. Not saying that you should expect to be struggle. But the fact that you're going through the struggle is that when you go through it, and when you learn those lessons that struggle happened, or that struggle taught you to build your resilience. It taught you to build your speaking voice. It taught you to build the fact that I don't want this to happen to anyone else. So that's why I'm going to go after this. Turn around and reclaim it, and let it speak on its own, and let you, so that ultimately you become the shining example of overcoming and addressing that emotional pain, and realizing that you are greater, that you are above it. And to say you are above that emotional pain. So for our last and final spoken word, I kind of find it one as far as the perspective of reclaiming, in a sense. it's using a bit of personification, but it's showing how, and it's something that is meant to be negative, something that is meant to be painful, can ultimately try to change its perspective and become something greater. So, without further ado, here is our final spoken word of the show.
And the burning cross said, "Hey, boy, you ever see a cross snap, crackle, pop Rice Krispie into a bowl of flames?" I said, "You ever seen a cross burning? Nah, this ain't no crucifix, I be crucifixion. This ain't black skin, this brown boy bark, I bite, I burn, black, crackle, pop, you know. I used to be a proud thing. When I was constructed, I thought they were going to put me up in some church like my mama and my dad. You know, my pops was a pine and my mama was a redwood, and they crossed paths at Mount Joy Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama. And they used to tell me that my great-great-great-great-granddaddy was an old rugged cross who lived on Calvary. And there was this guy named Jesus that was killed on him. And ever since then, people have been looking to my folks as a sign of salvation, which brings us here to the front yard of Reverend Robert Hughes, Birmingham, Alabama, July 1959. You know, I didn't want to be burned like this. They said the Reverend was a good man with good intentions. I thought they would hang me up in his church, but the white men in white hoods who constructed me, they don't hang crosses. They hang the bodies of poor colored folks on my cousin trees who wish they limbs wasn't so strong, wish they limbs would just snap under the weight of unwanted passengers. Instead, they be crooked caskets carrying them closer to God. We don't call my cousin trees killers, no. We call them cursed couriers, forced to bear the burden of strange fruit, forced to beckon unwanted burials. You know, sometimes I think it's better to be burned. I just die here. Slowly, I strike fear into all who see. I be the ultimate contradiction, a raisin in the sun, a dream deferred, a sign of salvation, yet a symbol that it will never come. The brightest light in the darkest circumstances, a burning cross. Be black boy watching white supremacists burn his body, his whole being to the ground. You know, the harder we fight for freedom, the more of my sibling crosses they burn in the front yards of well-meaning individuals and desegregated schools. What will come of me when the fire has had its fill? Some of me will become ash. I will seep into the soil as my family mourns over my charred remains still. Some of me is smoke. I will cling to everyone who ever knew me, hoping that you don't forget me and still. Some of me will become heat. And like heat, I will rise. I will rise like that man they said they killed on my great-great-great-great-granddaddy. You know, they say after 3 days he rose from the dead, and like him, like heat, I will rise, and I just hope you don't forget me. I just hope you all tell my story.
Woo. Alrighty, yes, okay. Yes, listen to the poem. Yes. Woo, that was powerful. Alright, guys, y'all just heard the last and final spoken word of the show. That was Mr. Jamin Hill, and it's called Burning Cross. So that poem was very, very powerful, but definitely was a great example of emotional pain, how to reclaim and change that emotional pain. Now, he gave a personification of the burning cross, basically from the perspective of the cross. As you know, the cross symbolizes so much and such a powerful symbol, but also when introduced with racism and hate, it also became a victim or a symbolized by burning it, became a very well-known signal of hate. So just that duality of it shows, and I love how Mr. Hill kind of changes it and shows the personification from the perspective of the cross itself, showing how emotionally and painful that is for the cross to represent so much and such a higher power and such an essence, for it to now be chosen into a system of hate, but yet at the end it turns and rises up and shows the power of the greatness that it actually was meant to be. And that's how I look at us individually when it comes to dealing with our emotional pain. That's so much. Hey y'all, tuning into me on Facebook Live. Hey y'all. But how we take that emotional pain and we go through so much, that we work on ourselves by identifying the things that were ours, that isn't ours, that of ours, and actually clearing out everything that adds to that trauma, that triggers that emotional pain, by being silent and listening to our hearts, by listening, whether you pray, you listening to the Creator, you listening to whoever you believe to find the greatness in you, by shutting out all the unnecessary voices, perspectives, ideologies, whatever they are, about you or about where you're from or about who you are, about where you are, about who you associate with. When you tune all that out, seek to find that greatness within you and let that rise, let that come up so you are above it. So when you go out into this world and you afflicted by it, when you triggered by it, when you see it, you can say, oh, I'm above that. I am. Not in a snobby way, not in a way that you looking down, but as in a way that you're above it to the point where you know you can heal from it. When you know that you can walk in the greatness that you have, that you walk and continue in that path to flourish. So my main message is, when it comes to dealing with that emotional pain, take that time, whichever method you choose, to really work on yourself. Whether it is staying silent to yourself, whether it is speaking out, whether it is shutting out the voices or speaking against those voices to change your community or change your situation, whichever way you go about it. Remember, the main goal of healing and addressing that emotional pain is to ultimately find that peace and that greatness in you. And as long as you keep your mind on that and what that looks like to you, that's what you achieve. That's what you get. And that's my final thoughts on that, because coming up next is Good Morning Blues right here on WRFG Atlanta. Yes. And I am the Queen, Lady AC. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, because coming up next is my boy Rich right here, bring you Good Morning Blues. So I will see you guys next week, and I hope you guys have a great hump day. You get over that hump, because the weekend's almost back, y'all. It's okay. We're going to make it, because we're going to find that greatness, right? Right. All right, y'all. Well, I will leave y'all with my closing song. As always, this is Donnie Cloud9, the DJ Spinner remix. So y'all have a good day, good weekend, a good forever. All right. Bye, y'all. And remember, if you just want to say hi to me and let you know what you think, I am on all social medias at Queen Lady AC, all one word, Queen Lady AC. And my Facebook page is Queen Lady Space AC. That's how you search for it. All right, y'all. See y'all next week. Turn it on. All right. All right, y'all. Remember, find that greatness. Trust me, I'm still searching for it. I know it's here. I'm trying to maintain it. And you got to maintain that greatness too. And don't let none of this stuff, like I said, the story was powerful and it needs to be done. But if you mostly can't deal with it, hey, take that time. But at the same time, take that time to work to do your work. Okay? All right, y'all. See y'all next week.